The air in the baby food aisle felt thick with tension the moment her eyes locked on mine. I'd only just politely asked if I could grab the blueberry-flavored rice puffs from the shelf she was blocking, and she looked at me like I'd just insulted her entire family. Look, I'm a pretty chill guy. 35, a dad, and yes, 6'3" with shoulders that don't exactly scream approachable. Most of the time, I'm perfectly happy blending in. But today, blending wasn't an option. My kid, bless his finicky little heart, only eats these specific blueberry rice puffs. They're like currency in our house, good behavior rewards, tantrum diffusers, the works. So, when I spotted the last box on the shelf, I knew I had to get it. Standing directly in front of them, meticulously comparing two identical boxes of baby oatmeal, seriously, identical, was this woman. I figured she worked there, maybe stocking or something, given how intently she was examining those boxes. Or perhaps she was just a particularly dedicated shopper. "Excuse me, ma'am," I said, pitching my voice low and friendly, trying not to startle her. "Could I just reach in there for those blueberry puffs?" I gestured politely over her shoulder to the prize. She straightened up slowly, turning to face me. Her eyes, magnified by her glasses, narrowed. "I don't work here," she snapped, the words clipped and sharp, as if I'd just accused her of a felony. "Okay, fair enough. My bad for assuming." But she was still blocking the puffs. "Right, sorry about that," I replied, trying to be reasonable. "But I really just need to grab that box. Would you mind just moving your cart a foot or so?" I pointed again. That's when her face began to redden, a deep, angry flush that started at her neck and crept all the way up to her hairline. "Are you deaf?" she practically shouted, startling the kid in the next aisle. "I said I don't work here." "What part of that do you not understand, you oaf?" My internal chill started to crack. "Oaf? Really?" I took a deep breath. "Ma'am," I said, my voice dropping a notch, which for me makes it sound more serious, not louder. "I understand you don't work here. I'm not asking you to scan my groceries. I'm asking you to move so I can grab the last box of puffs for my kid." I kept my gaze steady, trying to convey that this was a simple request, not a challenge. She bristled. Her mouth opened and closed a few times, searching for words before landing on, "You can't just talk to me like that. Who do you think you are, demanding things?" She took a step closer, puffing herself up, despite being a good foot shorter than me. It was almost comical if I wasn't so utterly bewildered by her sheer unreasonableness. "Look," I sighed, running a hand over my admittedly large head. "I'm not demanding. I'm asking you to be a decent human being and let me get what I need. These are the only ones my child will eat, and I'm not leaving without them." Just then, a harried-looking stalker, maybe early 20s, came around the corner. He took in the scene, me standing tall and probably looking intense, and Karen, red-faced and practically vibrating with indignation. "Everything all right here, sir?" he asked, clearly bracing himself for an argument. "Perfectly fine," I said, keeping my voice even. "I just need to grab the last box of blueberry puffs, and this lady won't let me?" I gestured to the shelf. Karen, however, seized her opportunity. "He's harassing me," she shrieked, pointing a shaky finger at me. "He's been shouting at me, calling me names, demanding I move. You need to have him thrown out immediately." The young man looked utterly confused. "Ma'am, I just saw him standing here quietly. Sir, were you shouting?" "Not at all," I replied calmly. "I simply asked her to move, then asked again when she started yelling at me for not working here. All I want is the puffs." Karen sputtered. "He's lying, he's a bully, he's threatening me. Get his name, I want him banned." The worker, probably used to these tantrums, sighed. "Ma'am, if there's an issue, I'm going to need your name first." Her face went from fiery red to an almost sickly pale. "My name is none of your business. Just do your job and get rid of him." I shook my head slowly, reaching past her now, since she'd unconsciously shifted her cart slightly in her fervor. I grabbed the coveted box of blueberry puffs. "Look, lady," I said, holding up the puffs triumphantly, "I don't care what your name is, or if you work here or not. All I wanted was this." I gave the box a little shake, and you made a 5-minute inconvenience into a full-blown meltdown. Good luck with whatever this is you're doing. I started to walk away, but Karen wasn't done. "I demand to speak to your manager," she screamed at the stalker, then to me. "You haven't heard the last of this? I'm calling corporate. You're all getting fired." I just grinned over my shoulder, the blueberry puffs clutched safely in my hand. "Sure thing, Karen," I mumbled under my breath, loud enough for her to possibly hear before heading to checkout. The satisfaction of those puffs and watching her face completely deflate was almost as sweet as the thought of my kid finally getting his reward.
If you're still watching, you're clearly into this stuff. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got more stories just like these. Now, on to the last one.
The shriek was so sudden, so utterly unhinged, it practically warped the air around us. "You will serve me," Karen screeched, eyes bulging, spittle flying. Just moments before, I'd been a comedian, excited for my set. Now, I was just her personal waiter, apparently. And apparently, I was failing spectacularly. "Look, I'm Ethan. I sling jokes for a living. And usually my nights involve a mic, a spotlight, and a few dozen people laughing. Or at least politely chuckling. This particular night, I was at a bustling bar, restaurant, the kind of place where the scent of fryer oil mixes with cheap beer and the hopeful anticipation of live entertainment. My set was up soon, and I was just chilling at the bar, mentally running through my opening bits. My phone buzzed on the sticky countertop, a forgotten afterthought. I reached for it, a quick, habitual motion to pocket it before hitting the stage. As I straightened up, a woman, let's call her Karen because, well, she just was, cut me off. She was impeccably dressed, if a bit too rigid for a casual Friday night, and her face held that particular pinched expression that screams, "I am important and you are not." "Excuse me," she barked, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Are you just going to stand there? I've been waiting for my wings forever. Go check on them." I blinked. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I don't actually work here." I gestured vaguely towards the stage. "I'm the comedian performing tonight." Karen's perfectly sculpted eyebrows shot up. "Don't be ridiculous. I saw you behind the bar, moving things around." She meant my phone. My phone, people. Now, I don't have all night. "My table over there," she pointed a manicured nail at a booth across the room, "is starving. Go get my food." A little chuckle escaped me. This was wild. Seriously, I'm Ethan, the comedian. My name's on the sign. I tried to keep it light, thinking maybe she'd laugh, realize her mistake. Big mistake. Her face modeled, a slow burn starting from her neck. "Oh, I see," she hissed, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Trying to pull a fast one? Trying to avoid your responsibilities? Let me tell you something, young man. Customer service is not optional. I pay your wages." My jaw clenched. "Ma'am, with all due respect, you definitely do not pay my wages because I don't work here. I tell jokes. That's it." That's when her volume knob turned to 11. "You think this is funny?" she shrieked, drawing the attention of half the bar. "You think you can just stand there and mock me? I demand you serve me right now." Just as her face started to contort into a shade of puce I didn't think humanly possible, a booming voice cut through the din. "All right, folks, give it up for our very own Ethan." The MC's voice boomed over the speakers, followed by a smattering of applause. "He's got some fresh material for you. Give him a warm welcome." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't a problem, this was material. I grinned. "Well, what do you know? Looks like my shift just started," I muttered, loud enough for Karen to hear, before striding onto the stage, mic in hand. The spotlight hit me and I launched straight into it. "Good evening, everyone. Ethan here. You know, it's funny, just moments ago I was having a fascinating discussion with a lovely patron about my employment status. Apparently I'm not just a comedian. I'm also moonlighting as a server who thinks checking on food means holding my phone. The crowd laughed, and I could see Karen, still seething at her table, her friends looking mortified, and she was insistent, I continued, leaning into the mic. Said she saw me behind the bar, moving things around. Folks, if picking up my phone counts as being on staff, then every single one of you checking your texts just got hired. The laughter swelled, and I kept riffing on the absurdity of it all, Karen's enraged face a constant source of inspiration. About halfway through my set, just as I was explaining the difference between a punchline and a food order, the actual waitress, bless her heart, appeared near Karen's table with a tray of hot wings. Without missing a beat, I slid off the stage, still holding the mic. "Ah, perfect timing," I declared dramatically, grabbing the tray from the waitress, who looked utterly bewildered. "See, ma'am? I told you I'd take care of it." I strode over to Karen's table, my best impeccable service smile plastered on. Her jaw actually dropped. Her friends, bless their hearts, were trying to disappear under the table. "Here you go, ma'am," I announced, placing the wings down with a flourish, "freshly prepared just as you ordered. Anything else I can get you tonight?" I winked at the audience, who were howling. Karen's face was a masterpiece of disbelief, humiliation, and pure, unadulterated fury. She sputtered, trying to form words, but nothing coherent came out. Her friends were openly apologizing to me, mouthing, "I'm so sorry." "What is the meaning of this?" she finally shrieked, pointing at me. This man is mocking me. I want to speak to your manager. He needs to be fired." Just then, the manager, who'd been watching the whole spectacle from the bar, sauntered over. He was a seasoned pro, always knew how to handle a situation. "Is there a problem here, ma'am?" he asked, a picture of calm. "A problem?" Karen shrieked, red-faced. "This comedian impersonated a waiter, harassed me, and then publicly humiliated me. I demand he be fired and I get a full refund." The manager looked at me, then back at Karen, a perfect poker face. "Impersonated a waiter? Ma'am, this is Ethan. He's our featured comedian tonight. He doesn't work here in the traditional sense. He just performs." He glanced at the half-eaten wings. "Did he bring you your food?" Karen looked like she might explode. "Yes. He took it from the waitress. He's unprofessional, rude, and I will be filing a complaint with corporate." I just shrugged, mic still in hand. "Hey, I was just doing my job. Customer's always right? She demanded service. That was the last straw. With a guttural roar, Karen snatched a glass from the table and smashed it against the wooden wall behind her. Shards flew. A collective gasp went through the bar. The manager's polite smile vanished. "All right, that's enough," he said, his voice steel. "You're done here, ma'am. Get out." Karen was escorted out, still sputtering threats and accusations. The crowd cheered. I finished my set to a standing ovation, my material now richer by one absolutely unhinged encounter. Walking out later that night, the adrenaline slowly fading, I couldn't help but think about all the actual service workers who deal with people like Karen every single day, without the benefit of a mic or a supportive audience. It's a tough gig, man, dealing with that kind of entitlement. But for one glorious night, I got to turn her entitlement into my punchline, and honestly, it felt pretty damn good.
My wrist still stings a bit, honestly. Not enough for stitches, but enough to remind me of the screaming banshee with the acrylic claws who tried to ruin my summer day. All I wanted was some damn ice cream, for crying out loud. It was scorching out, one of those sweltering August days where the air hangs heavy and you can practically feel your skin crisping. My friends and I were melting, so naturally, our minds turned to the holy grail of summer relief, ice cream. This place was the spot. Legendary scoops, but that also meant a legendary line even outside. We'd managed to snag an outdoor table, congratulating ourselves on that small victory while we collectively tried to decide what sugary concoction to order. I was the designated scribe, scribbling down everyone's bizarre requests like a mad scientist planning an experiment. I was just about to head for the counter, mentally rehearsing the complicated order when I felt it. a laser-like glare on the back of my head, then a throat clearing so loud and condescending it sounded like someone was trying to dislodge a bowling ball. I tried to ignore it, chalking it up to someone having a bad day. But it persisted, growing more impatient, more aggressive. Against my better judgment, I turned, and there she was, the quintessential Karen. Her short, aggressively blonde bob practically vibrated with indignant energy. Her face, twisted into a permanent scowl, was framed by what looked like 5 pounds of cheap acrylic nails, tapping impatiently on thin air. She looked like she'd just swallowed a lemon and was ready to spit out a lawsuit. My gut clenched. This wasn't just a Karen, this was the final boss, Karen, complete with an aura of entitlement you could feel from 10 feet away. "Well, took you long enough," she huffed, her voice shrill and grating. "I want to order. What do you mean you're just standing around? Get me a double scoop of pistachio, now." I blinked, genuinely confused. Sorry, I don't actually work here." I started holding up my list. "I'm just taking my friend's orders, like, for us to go up to the counter." Her eyes narrowed to slits, scanning my casual shorts and t-shirt, clearly not seeing the uniform she expected. "Don't you lie to me. I saw you writing. You're clearly taking orders. Now stop making excuses and get moving before I call your manager." She took a menacing step closer. "No, seriously, I don't work here," I said, my voice starting to thin with exasperation. "The workers don't come out to take orders anyway. You order inside?" I pointed vaguely towards the bustling interior. That's when she really lost it. Her face flushed an ugly red, her mouth a tight, angry line. Before I could even react, her hand shot out, those garish fake nails digging into my forearm like a predator's talons. It wasn't a grab, it was an attack. A sharp jolt of pain, a rush of adrenaline. I instinctively yanked my arm back, a sickening, ragged tear of my skin against her claws. A gasp escaped my lips, a small spot of blood blooming on my arm. Suddenly, a protective wall appeared between me and the screaming woman. My uncle, who'd been patiently waiting a few paces behind us, had seen the whole thing. His face, usually jovial, was now a mask of pure fury. "What the hell do you think you're doing to my niece?" he roared, his voice cutting through the general buzz of the busy shop. He didn't wait for an answer. He scanned the crowd, spotted the manager looking stressed inside, and practically dragged the poor man over, pointing at my bleeding arm and the red-faced woman. The manager, a calm older man with a surprisingly firm voice, was there in an instant. He took one look at my arm, then at the livid woman, and his expression hardened. "Ma'am, what is going on here?" he asked, his tone leaving no room for argument. "She refused to take my order. She's lazy and she scratched me," the woman shrieked, totally ignoring my bleeding arm and pointing a shaky, accusing finger at me. The manager, without a word, carefully checked my wrist. The small puncture marks and scratches were clearly visible. "Ma'am," he said, his voice surprisingly steady, "this young lady absolutely does not work for us. Our employees wear uniforms, and our employees do not take orders outside. You come to the counter for service." He paused, looking the woman dead in the eye. "And you have clearly assaulted a customer. I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Now." She sputtered, tried to argue, claiming I had attacked her, but the manager just shook his head. "No, Karen," he said, and I swear a little part of me cheered inside. "You need to go. If you don't, I will call the police." That seemed to finally do it. With one last hateful glare aimed squarely at me, she turned and stomped off, muttering about lawsuits and how she'd never patronize such a poorly run establishment again. Good riddance. After a quick first aid wipe and a free scoop on the house, thanks, awesome manager, we finally got our ice cream. The incident definitely put a damper on the initial excitement, but honestly, having my uncle ready to throw down and a manager who actually got it made me feel pretty damn good. It was just a stupid ice cream outing, but it turned into a reminder that sometimes the world just sends you a walking tornado of entitlement. But you know what? We still got our ice cream, and she didn't. And that's a win in my book.
This next one might just be your new favorite.